One Page Weekly with Nick Slavik. Pragmatism. Data plus feelings. Being factually correct changes minds less than 10% of the time. Humans experience the pain of being wrong as a threat response in the brain. And there's an inherent tension between being right and being effective, at least in my experiences with any human interaction. You guys already know that I have a highly developed sense of justice and accuracy. I've wrote about it a few times here, but I'm also a pragmatist. I prioritize outcomes always. This does a few things for me. I'm very open to new ideas, new beliefs, to challenge assumptions and novel opinions, but only if they move progress forward. A whole bunch of years ago, I was introduced to reasoning on first principles. The idea of, if none of this existed, what would be built in its place? Would it resemble what currently exists, or would it be completely different? Challenging assumptions and building things from the ground up has been a great strategy, especially in an industry that has not changed much in 75 years, but also leads to immense frustrations in so many other areas of my life. Because of my position as a business owner, I have to deal with healthcare, state and federal government, and all sorts of employment law stuff. I don't have to tell you how frustrating and confusing some of that can be. For the life of me, I cannot understand why these systems run like they do or what they are trying to accomplish, especially when you observe them operating. I'm also bad at compliance, generally. I hate complex guidelines that don't seem to move towards an outcome, but I lock in and get it done, especially when it comes to my businesses. There's a time to be principled, and there's a time to be effective. Coming to terms with this as a father, husband, and business owner is not easy. Comfort versus solutions is something I've had to come to terms with over the years. In leadership surveys, employees rank their supervisors poorly when the manager optimizes for correctness. On the flip side, employees give glowing reviews of their managers when employees feel heard. I struggled with this for years. A first-line report would ramble about anything and everything, not typically with a strong story arc, and definitely not moving towards a solution. I would come to these conversations with a solution already chambered, ready to fire it upon them. And I used to. But I've learned to hold my tongue. At the end of our conversation, the direct report would feel great. I would listen, but I would feel frustrated. They considered that a good meeting. I saw a dearth of solutions, and I used to judge them for this. On my long arc of trying to figure out what management is and what my style of it is, I now know that this is what good meetings are, and that is what good managers do. I'm a very high D on the DISC profile scale. If people want to effectively communicate with me, they should be brief and bright, except when you're a manager. The type of thoughtfulness that you're witnessing here is not always considered for managers. I've always had to be the chameleon in my communication skills because I've always prioritized the outcome over me being right. That's not to say that things that I know are right should be disregarded. Pragmatism is a very mature, often nuanced way of upholding your standards while also optimizing for the long-term strategy and vision. So I ride the very thin rail of righteousness and effectiveness, and it's still a huge challenge for me. And I'm sure the tension will never fully be resolved. But the eternal quest of building a system where the standards are upheld and the outcomes are achieved will go on forever, achieving wonderful freedom for the humans around me, sometimes in spite of the participants, and sometimes in spite of myself. This has been One Page Weekly with Nick Slavik.